So, in an attempt to help everyone to understand a little more how the folktale character of the wolf it runs parallel, if you like, to narcissistic behaviour today, I wanted to draw up the contrast between good wolf and bad wolf. There are a lot of people who love wolves, and I do. I love the natural wild wolves that we used to have roaming in our forests and across our land until farming was introduced, and then wolves became a big no-no because they needed to eat as well, and they were taking all the food off the land in the form of sheep and lambs and everything else. But what we need to get into perspective really is the fact that the wolf, because of its association with darkness, its association with the moon, the wolf howling against the moon, that sort of thing, we have sort of run with this a little bit in an understandable way, and we've created a sort of ghostly or lower worldly version of the wolf, so that we can introduce and pack into it all the shadow activity that somebody who is power conscious might wield upon everybody. So what we've got to start doing is separating out the natural wild wolf that lives wildly, roams the land, gets its food naturally, blah 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 blah, sort of thing, you know what I mean, lives in packs. We've got to get that in perspective, and in contrast to that we've got to see the elements that were taken from the wolf and packaged up into something that wasn't very nice, which we must remember is actually disrespectful to the wolf. So when we're talking about something like a werewolf, or the wolf in a folktale character such as Red Riding Hood, when he goes and overpowers her and he takes over and gobbles up grandmother and does all those bad things, what we're seeing is that he's taking elements from the wolf and reworking those so that it becomes permissible. As civilization started to take hold over and above natural, tribal and wild ways of living, then it sort of corrupted us. Farming was introduced, and this goes over thousands of years. I'm not talking about something that's just a couple of 100 years ago. We're talking about thousands of years. And so the wild way of living kept the natural version of the wolf. So if you were to dress up and put a wolf's head on, a wolf mask or something, and in a ritual, then that's quite natural. The bottom line is, if you take what the wolf has and you bring it into everyday life and make it part of your everyday activities, rather than ritualising it or looking at it from a distance and keeping that healthy respect, it goes into an area of deep, deep disrespect and carries a misunderstanding of what the wolf is really naturally all about and what can be taught by this wonderful, beautiful, magnificent creature. But if you take that seriously and you're extracting all the powerful things that you believe you can have that set you over and above everyone else because it gives you the power of the wolf, then you're entering into dangerous territory because you are heading towards narcissism. You are going to a place which the natural world won't recognise, in the sense that there are natural laws. So if you can understand what I'm trying to say, there's a good wolf and a bad wolf. The good wolf is natural. If you leave him alone, he's natural. He just gets along with his life in his pack, and he does what wolves have been doing for thousands and thousands of years. And a natural wild animal, like lots of other natural wild animals. And there's the bad wolf, where man extracts what he thinks is power from an animal, masquerades with it and says, hey, I can do this. The thing is, he can't. Because what you end up with the bad wolf is a very bad dose of narcissism. And this is why you get the wolf in all the folk tales, taking over everybody's lives, being a nuisance to everyone, causing chaos, because he hasn't worked himself out. And this also rings true with the fact that he's had a bad time and he's been growing up. He's had a bad time, and that's taking him towards a more power-conscious consciousness, if you like. Now, we cannot say, poor bad wolf, he's had a hard time and he was growing up. Perhaps if we give him a nice little bit of love and care and tenderness, he'll be all right. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Since we became civilized thousands of years ago, we've trodden a very dangerous path, in the sense that we've gone so anti-natural law that we've reconditioned ourselves to believe that that anti-natural law is normal law, and it isn't. It certainly ain't. So we now find it very difficult to know what natural law is and what it is to go against natural law, because we live so against natural law every day of our lives in our civilized ways that we can no longer tell the difference. So it's very hard when you want to say we can heal someone who is exerting power over us, because it's a very, very difficult task to do. What we have to do is we have to work on healing and changing ourselves, making ourselves understand the difference between good wolf and bad wolf, understanding that the narcissistic elements will creep into man far more easily than it could ever creep into any other creature on earth. And that's something to think about, isn't it? You would never get a wolf masquerading as a man and saying, hey, look at me, I've got a lot of power, because they know, the wolves know deep down, that humans are idiots, really. We're the only species, the human race is the only species that can exert this power and take all what it thinks the power is from every other animal and use it badly, and then, hey presto, you just become a shadow when you're using that power to exert your great, wonderful influence over everyone else. There are a lot of things to think about here, because it is something that we've actually lost so badly in our society and in the way we live. We've just lost it. And if we kept hold of all these folk tales and realised the psychology behind them and what they actually mean, we'd have done ourselves a service. So have a think about the good wolf and the bad wolf. Have a think about this wonderful creature that we used to have roaming the earth, who commanded a lot of respect because he's wild, like lots of other wild creatures, and lived naturally and normally. And then think about humans taking on that form. We must never, ever think of doing that. If we take anything from an animal, we want to take everything that's good about that animal. And we have to be very careful when we do that, because we've got to look at ourselves first. We've got to change ourselves first and then look at the animals. Otherwise we're going to make a mess of it. Otherwise we won't honour the animals, and we'll just make silly arseholes of ourselves, really, and we'll be a danger and a nuisance to everyone around us. So narcissism is encased in the bad wolf. We need to learn some more about this. It's a big education, isn't it? But I hope that's given you some food for thought. So just for now, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you again soon.